Alright guys, welcome back to day 5 where we're talking about shots to squats. This is how to have some booze and balance at this time of year. Now if you don't know what's happening, just really quickly, every single day at 6 a.m. I'm releasing a podcast episode on the lead up to Christmas. Now so far we have covered over the fuck it mentality. After that we then dove into day 2, was all about how to slay your workouts with some workout strategies to implement. And then alongside of that there's also a free downloadable guide with that. I'm going to leave a link below this video if you want to check that out. After that, day 3 was all about Christmas hot takes, which was mainly fitness related, but also brought in some controversial ones just around the festivities. Yesterday's episode was the kind of one that we probably all struggle with alongside this episode, which was to do with the Christmas nutrition playbook. This was tips and kind of nutrition strategies to implement or things to focus on over the last couple of weeks so that you finish the year strong and also start January 2025 with a bang. Now, today then, let's talk about alcohol. Now, if I'm being fully honest about this, I've done several episodes over the last 200 odd, and I always find it quite a hard, challenging topic to talk about. Not because I struggle with it personally, it's just, it can be so individualised on what's accepted and what's not, and I almost hate the message of kind of preaching and saying that, oh, you shouldn't do this and you should do that. So that's not what this episode's going to be about. But what I do want to kind of dive into is there a way to find balance? Because I think if you live in the UK, then you're probably in the same page as we definitely overconsume alcohol at this time of year. It just seems to be this let loose and let it rip, and everyone's got that one friend in the group that's just taking our tequila shot, another tequila shot, and it's just getting mad, like so out of hand how much people will drink these days. And I say these days, like I've been a part of this as well, and maybe it's a part of age, maybe it's just the times are changing a little bit, but certainly for my generation, us growing up and going through our early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, when you went out for a drink, you just full sent it, right? There was no sort of, I guess when you're younger, the hangover doesn't hit as much, and it just becomes like, it wasn't even consciously that you're trying to get out your face. It's just, it becomes the natural thing that everybody's doing. It's just drink, drink, drink. And no one really says no. And I remember when people were starting to be wary or look at their alcohol consumption, say, oh, I'm only having a couple, then the typical format in that group setting is like, no, come on, don't be a gimp, come on, drink more, and drink just gets bought for them. So people can be real assholes about this, right? So it's, as I said, a very kind of challenging topic to dive into and really highlight what is the best thing to do. And ultimately, like all these episodes, the best thing to do is going to be up to yourself. What is it that you want? If you want to get blackout drunk, then by all means go for it. I would say if that's you, then there's maybe some deeply rooted or deeper issues that you maybe are running from, trying to escape from. It could be, it's not my place, but it could be a number of reasons as to why. But most of us don't like that feeling, the feeling of not being able to control what you do or remember what you do. So, as I said, it's a balancing act. Now, this time of year, Christmas cocktails, eggnog, mulled wine, like eggnog and mulled wine, the people who tend to like them, I actually not met, in fact, there's only one person who said it, and it was one of my clients the other day said she actually likes mulled wine. I was gobsmacked because she's only 25, 26. But putting all that aside, there's more occasions to drink, and there's more pressure to drink as well. So there's going to be 4 segments of this episode that we'll dive into, and hopefully you'll walk away with maybe a bit of a plan of action to go into these next couple of weeks if you're someone that considers themselves of maybe being a bit worried as to what's going to happen here. Now, the overarching theme with these episodes this podcast is all about health and fitness, and of course a little bit of entertainment. But the health and fitness part is very hard to communicate because a healthy thing can sometimes be a beer, and a healthy thing can sometimes be a cocktail, and a healthy thing can also sometimes be none of them. It really depends on the person. It depends on your situation, depends on your life circumstances, and really what's the frame of mind going into that. So let's break it down. How does alcohol... We'll break it down into these parts. How alcohol affects your body, your fitness and your performance. I think we can all kind of guess what sort of goes on, but I'll cover that off briefly. And then we'll dive into some strategies around balancing alcohol from a calorie point of view. What does it actually mean? And none of this information that I'm communicating on this episode is to make you feel even worse, to make you feel guilty about going into that, right? So as I said, the overarching theme is all about how do we become more fitter, stronger, healthier individuals. And alcohol will play its part on aiding that, but also being a derailer of our progress depending on how much of it we drink. And the balancing approach will come down to what's going on in your life, right? So let's get into what does alcohol actually do to our body. So first things first, let's talk about the fat loss and just general progress. When we break alcohol down, it is, in terms of unit of calories, if we want to look at it from that point of view, it's 7 calories per gram. But in those 7 calories, unlike fat, which is 9 calories per gram, protein and carbs, 4 calories per gram, they have other micronutritious values or nutrition density that comes along with that. So we get other aspects of what that part plays in our body. But alcohol isn't calorie dense at all. These calories are referred to as empty calories, and they do have no nutritious meaning. Now that doesn't mean they have any meaning whatsoever, because sometimes when you have alcohol, it can loosen you up. It can get you into these conversations. You could find the love of your life by being a bit more, I was going to say flirtatious. Maybe it's just to relax because you're too stressed and uptight. So they're empty in the sense of what nutritious benefit they bring to the table, because they don't whatsoever. Now, alcohol does have downfalls of what it does in terms of our metabolism. So if you're going to the gym regularly and you're working out to build strength, to build muscle, to lose fat, to see performance increase from week to week, all of that is then paused, okay? That gets put on hold when alcohol's in your system, because it's a toxin, it's a poison that's in the body, and the receptors that sit within our brain to get all these signals working to build muscle, to build strength, to increase performance, are all put on pause while it deals with this toxin and getting rid of it. Now, this is like you're in the middle of cleaning your house and your fire alarm goes off and you have to leave it as is. It's like it's putting pause on everything else that maybe needs to be done, but the fire alarm's ringing. This is the way to look at it. Your alcohol is the fire alarm to your metabolism. Now, that aside, the other thing that's probably the biggest concern or the biggest hindrance to your overall strength, progress, whatever it is going to be the sleep disruptions. So a lot of people say, oh no, I got to sleep really easy. There's different levels to sleep. You've got your easy sleep, and then you've got your deep sleep. Well, when you're drinking alcohol, you don't go into that deep sleep, and that's where you recover, that's where you build muscle, that's where you burn fat, that's where you see the results from the training, the tailored stress that you've been adding into your life. And every time you introduce alcohol, you have a poorer night's quality sleep. It's like sitting in easy mode. And that's why you wake up and you're like, man, I've been sleeping for 10 hours. It's not about the duration. It's about the level of the quality. So because your quality is affected, that means everything else is then thrown off. And that's really the biggest thing when it comes down to your muscle building and your strength or your fat loss, whatever it is that you're doing. Now, let's be honest. This time of year, should it be a time of year that you try to lose fat and all that sort of things? Well, again, it really depends. For most of us, it's not going to be, okay? So we're not really worried about fat loss, but we should be worried about retaining as much muscle mass as possible. So if there's one thing that's going on during our weeks where we have more alcohol than what we normally do, is making sure that we have set days where we're getting a strength workout in, we're getting a strong resistance training signal in our body to keep our muscles good. Even though that signal might be paused, it's better than the regression part, which is not having any signal in your body at all because you've not been working out, and then when you hit it with alcohol, and like we said on the nutritious side of things, you don't hit your protein and you're not hydrated, then you end up losing muscle at a pretty rapid rate. So how do we balance our fitness goals and balancing alcohol? Well, you don't have to give up alcohol entirely. You just need to think of a plan, think of a little bit of a strategy going into each occasion on what it is that you want to do. So if you've got a Christmas night out on the Saturday and then a Christmas lunch, and then the following day you've got another couple of Christmas things, like 3-4 days in a row, do you really want to be getting blackout drunk in every single one of them? Probably not. So can you be someone who goes to these occasions and not drink? If the answer is yes, then great, there is an option for you. But 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And sometimes you need to communicate that to your loved ones, the people that you're going out with. It's like, here, look, I'm not going to be drinking today. Having a mocktail, having something else that's on the menu that is alcohol-free. Alcohol-free beers is obviously a big thing as well, because there is an awkwardness of not holding something in your hand. Because if you hold a bottle of water, it doesn't really give off the same vibe, does it? Whereas if you hold an alcohol-free beer, then you can still be in that theme of being able to socialise. So let's understand the numbers first of all. Now, from a calorie perspective, let's say you drink beer. Pint of beer is anywhere from, I don't know, I guess about 200 calories to 250 calories. A glass of wine is usually about 150 to 200. And then a shot of vodka or a shot of some sort of liqueur would be anywhere from 70 calories to 110 calories. Now, that doesn't mean you just take shots all night, but very quickly, a couple of cocktails in, with a mixture of beverages, you can easily be doing the same amount of calories as a Christmas dinner. And as we spoke about in the nutrition episode, if we don't have our protein and fibre in us, then we'll see a massive atrophy in terms of muscle strength and even start to feel some chronic pain. So just bear that in mind. I'm not saying like don't have tons of drink, but or what we said before, don't demonise, don't be so dogmatic about it. Try and modernise. Can we have some of these things that you want to have? So there's always different strategies, and as I said, spoke about these different strategies before. When it's rounds of drinking, miss one round or miss a couple of rounds. Every second round, maybe have a glass of water with your drink. It may seem very taboo and weird to do, but ultimately, if it's really this big a concern for you, it's going to make the most dramatic impact into how you feel the next day and how better you feel with managing your alcohol consumption. Now, alcohol is easily one of the most overlooked, what's the word I'm looking for? Addictions that we have. A lot of people, I strongly believe, do have some sort of alcoholism, or where they are not necessarily branded as an alcoholic. It's just accepted more because there's always football games on, or there's always an event where they show up and drink to. And if you find yourself that you need this as a stress relief, then you're slowly bridging the gap between you being non-alcoholic and actually becoming an alcoholic. Now, that's not for me to judge and say that you are. I think everyone deep down knows if they reach out for that's where that sense of guilt comes from, the sense of like anxiety, depression, which then forces us down this route of drinking more and consuming more and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very tricky one, and this is why I really struggle talking about it, because people get our backs up so tight when you mention, it's like, well, I actually should have said this in the nutrition episode, because people are always like, oh my God, you're eating so much. It's like, yeah, you're drinking so much, mate. Imagine we turned around and said that to those around us that have a drink. Why can't we have one? Like, why is that? Why is it sad, or why is it frowned upon when you skip drinking alcohol? It's always, oh, come on, have a drink. Like, what's going on there? Imagine that was drugs. Imagine it was insert anything that can be considered an addiction. Oh, come on, just gamble. Just do one more gamble for us. Put it on our bet. Come on, do it. Enjoy the fun. Like, you know what I mean? So it's a very tricky one, right? And it's a tricky one to balance. So bringing this back to how do we implement some strategies? Well, when you're drinking on nights out, one part's going to be communicating to your friends. If you don't want to drink, or you want to drink less, say to them, just say, look, I'm only going to have a few tonight because I really don't like how I am when I drink too much, and I get really bad anxiety the next day and depression when I drink. And that becomes like almost a part of the conversation where we all laugh about. It's like, oh my God, you got the fear the next day? Aye, man, I've got the absolute fear. why the fuck are we doing this to ourselves then? Like, why are we just accepting this? So communicate to your friends, and it can be a really tricky one, more so for guys, because guys will take the piss out of each other. For women, they're a wee bit more caring and compassionate, but be serious about it. Say, look, I don't want to drink as much as what I normally do. So you might be the person who has been the class clown, and then that class clown throughout high school turns into the person that always full sends it when they're drunk, and then always has these mad stories to tell, and then you don't want to be that person anymore. So it's going to be a really uncomfortable conversation to have, but it'll be one that you won't regret, because, well, you might regret it if your pals are that brutal to you, but let's be honest, if your pals really care about you, they will find ways to support you. So that's one side of things. The other thing is kind of making a few swaps for lower calorie options. So if you have tons of cocktails all night, then they're very high sugary, high in calorie types of cocktails to have. Now, if that's what you're drinking back to back to back to back, the mixture of all the different juices, all the different sort of elements that go into that, that's going to make you feel absolutely horrendous just combining all those mixtures alone. So try and kind of stick to one or two of the same drinks and implement missing a round. And let's say there's 10 rounds bought on a night, then you're only drinking 5 of them. Now, don't miss the round that you're supposed to pay, right? That's a cheeky one to do, or maybe a smart one to do. But you can do that strategy as and when you feel. You can have the first couple of rounds, and then as people are ordering, maybe miss the last couple of rounds. So you decide what works out better for you. Light beers, even lighter wines now exist where they're not as calorie heavy. Now, this isn't about the calories necessarily, because, as I said, the calorie is... it's not irrelevant, but it's not the extra calories we're worried about, it's the impact of the alcohol on our system, right? So reducing the consumption of alcohol is where we want to be at. Something else to really consider when you're going into these occasions, so you've spoken to the people that you're going out with, your kind of future planning, right? What is it I'm going to do? Do I want to full send it? This is the one night of the year where I don't normally drink, but I'm going to drink it this one, and you're not going to set a limit. I would maybe go against that of not setting a limit, but at the same time, if you're someone who has a very good relationship with that, then you will be able to make this intuitive decision when you stop drinking on that night out. So cool, go for it, do your thing. For most of us, we're going to have some sort of rule that we set around this, where the 2-drink rule seems to be a thing that is referred upon. I've done that a few times this year, honestly, quite hard to do on the first, second, maybe third time, where I said that, it's like, I'll just have one. Had a drink, and then before I knew it, I had already ordered a second one because I felt too embarrassed to say, no, I'm okay, I'm just going to miss this one. And it's a good practice to bring in, especially if the world that we live in, particularly in the UK, everything we do is self-centred around drinking. And that's the other thing that I'm going to say in this, like, when you're meeting up with friends, and if you really want to change the dynamic of what you do for your fitness and health, one of the biggest reasons you've maybe got into a poor state in the first place is around alcohol, because of how much you drink, and then that plays its part onto nutrition. So we need to kind of change the routes. So if every time that you're meeting with your friends, it's all around alcohol, can we change that up? Can we do an activity? Can we do something else? If the answer's no, then cool, we need to implement a couple of other different strategies around how we modify the consumption of it. So setting a limit before you go out, it gives you a number to work towards. I've said I'll have 2 drinks, and sometimes I've had 4. But the main thing is the bar's been set, and then it's allowing me to reel the reins in. And there's another pun. I didn't actually mean that one. So it's different. It's a different way to think about it. With no number being there, it just becomes round, 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 and then that's simply it. Now, the last one I'm going to see in here in terms of strategies is going to be around the skipping of meals. Don't skip meals, right? Because we want to make sure that we've got a high protein, fibre rich food, rich meal beforehand. So something that is meat based, good amount of veggies, good amount of carbs, a nice balanced dish beforehand. No matter when you're eating out, even if you're eating out for dinner, I said it on the last one, don't just skip meals just because you know you're going to have a bigger calorie meal later on in the day. the worst thing you can do, because you'll end up overeating. And if you don't overeat, you'll end up over drinking. It's as simple as that. So skipping dinner to save calories for drinks is one of the worst plans. You will get absolutely steaming quicker, and you will just... there's like a crossing point that when you start drinking, you're like, oh, I'm okay, I'm not hungry anymore. And then it hits you. You're like, I need to find the greasiest chippy in town. I need to go there right now. Chips, cheese, kebab, sauce, whatever it is, right? And you're so ravenous. And what do? You overspend. Your eyes are big on your belly. You order so much, and usually it gets left. But there's some savages out there like myself who can consume the whole lot, and you never feel great after having that as well. Okay, next one. Let's talk about alcohol and training performance. Right, so alcohol dehydrates us. It obviously zaps our energy and hinders our muscle recovery. So if you drank, then one of the first things we need to do the next day is make sure we're hydrating ourselves, getting a good amount of electrolytes in. There's different powders that we can use. We can just add some Himalayan salt just to replenish all that dehydration. But the main thing is we need to be drinking water. This is why if you're drinking alcohol, implementing some water, I say water breaks, but implementing glasses of water alongside your drink as well can actually be a very powerful way of not getting too hungover the next day. Now, let's talk about working out then. So how do we work out when we are in the midst of always drinking or always getting brought out to these drinking occasions? Well, that's really up to you. Now, it doesn't mean the workout's entirely pointless, but one thing you want to do is modify the workouts. So let's say you are drinking the night before and you feel motivated and disciplined enough to get up the next day and go get your workout done. Then that workout can be changed. Like, it doesn't have to be set in stone. You can use the ones in the link below this video where it's a 15-minute workout, because the main thing is as you get your body moving, that gets the cogs and the wheels ticking. The analogy I mentioned earlier, you're in the middle of cleaning your house, the fire alarm goes off. This is like us coming in, disabling the fire alarm, starting to pick up where we left off. So it starts getting things back working after that pause. Now, the impact on muscle growth, I think we just need to accept that there is with chronically over drinking, so anywhere over 4 drinks, 5 drinks, there is a massive reduction in testosterone, protein synthesis, and that is not good for the gains that we're trying to achieve. So a couple of drinks here and there won't kill your progress, but you need to understand that if you are full sending it, you will lack on the gain side of things when it comes to your recovery and when it comes to your strength and muscle building sessions. Now, with that being said, as I said, the lifting isn't pointless at this point, because as you're lifting, you're doing that to maintain. You're doing that to maintain the physique or whatever it is, the strength, the resilience that you've been built up. So if you're not doing anything, then you'll still, not that you'll go backwards, but you can start to trail back a little bit. Whereas if you're still lifting, you're keeping everything in order. You're kind of keeping everything maintained. Okay, last kind of part here then, the practical game plan for drinking during the holidays. So let's kind of run through everything that we've just kind of covered off. So we got limits, setting limits, decide how much you want to drink on that night ahead of time. It gives you a loose number to aim towards. Next one, choosing the alcohol beverage is going to be smart to use things like lower calorie options or spirits and like sugar-free drinks or whatever it is that you want to do over sugary cocktails. As I said, this time of year there's some Christmas special cocktails. Feel free to lavish yourself in them if you want to try one out, but moderation, not demonization. Okay, next one, hydration. Want to make sure that there is at least one water with every alcoholic drink, if I'm being honest, but more often than not you're probably not going to stick to that, so try and stick to one water in between every round, and that will sort of keep you on track. Make sure you're eating before you drink and you're prioritising protein and fibre as always. And then we're going to plan for the day after. So the day after is going to include some sort of hydration. Try and get that balanced meal back in the day after. I know it's very tempting to reach for some of these other foods or some of these other takeaways. There's nothing entirely wrong with it, but if you're trying to make the best choices to bounce back, I would say eating a balanced meal that's high in protein, high in fibre. Again, got some nutritionally dense foods like your carbs, potatoes or whatever, and some get some greens on your plates. With that being said, if you're not going to be working out that day, is still very, very smart. It's still a very, very smart idea to make sure that you're moving. So make sure you get a 10-minute walk in, right? Start there and just watch what that does to your mindset, what it does to your overall energy levels, and you'll find yourself starting to get back to somewhat normality. So the goal here isn't to avoid alcohol entirely. Now, that might be an option for a handful of us, and if it is, then fair play, power to you. So this time of year is the time that we enjoy it with our friends and our family, and a big part of that is drinking alcohol. But we want to not lose all the progress that you've worked so hard towards. Now, you'll never lose it all, but you can make some damages to it if you are consuming a shit ton of alcohol. And I don't often say that in here. I'm normally very balanced in terms of, here, you can't really fuck it unless you give up. But alcohol's one of them where it does kind of fuck it. But if you're okay with fucking that up and then getting back to it the week after, then cool, do your thing. But you know the consequences that come along with that. You then feel guilt, and I can't help you not feel guilt if you're going to choose to do that to yourself. You're then going to feel the demons are starting to creep in. You get a wee bit more anxious, and then you feel really let down because you've wanted to do this thing and you've let yourself down. So it's not, as I said, avoiding it entirely. It's finding the balance with it, right? Balance and booze, right? Let's try and find balance with it, because you've never really tried to find balance. Most likely, if you're listening to this and you've made it this far, every time that you've drank, you've never really considered drinking in moderation, because it's something we don't necessarily do. And drinking in moderation is going to look very different from person to person, but give it a try, because it's better than the mindless aiming of just drinking another one because you've got some demons that you're trying to run away from. And as I said, if that is you, then look, you might need to dive deeper into that in 2025, and that should be one of your goals, to address why is that a thing that you're reaching out for. And one of the last ones I said there, try and pick activities that have an activity and it doesn't revolve just sitting around a table, like eating food and drinking. However, that is the most common thing we all do at this time of year, and if that's what you want to do, then do it. So here's the deal. You can have fun at the festive season. You can have fun with alcohol. You can have fun without. You can still hit your fitness goals, and you can still maintain your fitness goals. It really depends on what it is you're trying to chase after at this time of year. But alcohol isn't the enemy unless you make it one. So be intentional, set your plan, and try and stick to it. Like, you've set a plan for a reason. You're wanting to do this for a reason. Remind yourself of that reason when you're going into it. Very similar to the nutrition episode. Understand how you speak to yourself as well. I can't have that. No, it's not that you can't have it. You can have whatever you want. You're a grown-ass adult. Do you want it? So if you don't want it, say you don't want it. And that's how you communicate to your friends. You got to say, no, I'm okay. And they'll go, like, try and push you on. It's like, no is an answer. I don't want that. If you say I can't have that, it opens up a debate. Oh man, imagine looking after your fitness. Fucking shitty. I honestly hate that. And I get this from family, not just friends, right? So just because you're not choosing to drink alcohol doesn't mean you're trying to focus necessarily on your fitness. It's overall quality of life and health. I don't want to be slugging about the house the next day. I want to be enjoying it, and I can still enjoy myself when I go to these occasions as well. Okay, so that wraps up today's episode. I think I think I covered all the points I wanted to touch on there. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, you know what to do. Give us a wee thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching. Subscribe to us over there at Bulletproof Mindset __. Follow me on Instagram at Coach Crossar. And if you've got any questions, we've got a Q&A episode coming up very, very soon. Then reach out to me. You watch out for my question box or message me privately. What is one of the things you struggle with most at this time of the year? And with that being said, you are in for a treat where tomorrow's episode is going to be around mobility. Mobility matters, and I'm going to give you 4 of my favourite exercises to be doing to keep you loose as a goose over the festive period. No pun intended. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow.